Hello everybody, welcome to My Zone Online School. My name is Mr. Mario Tanasio Nanias. Let's welcome our friend Pomwene. Let's not forget to sanitize our hands and put on our mask. Observe the distance. And our topic for today is on social health, particularly on substance abuse. As we said, our lesson for today, which is on page 18, it's on substance abuse. Before we go in details of our lesson, let's look at what do we have to know, or what are we expected to know at the end of the day. Learning competencies. We'll be able to describe substance abuse. We'll also be able to identify the health, social, and economic effects of alcohol, tobacco, and drugs on human beings. There are many words that we are going to use in this topic. Let's look at some words that we need to understand. The word abuse. Abuse means to misuse something like drugs or alcohol, meaning that you are overusing more than it was supposed to be done. Economic. Economic only has got to be with money and business matter. When you are talking about economic in this topic, we are going to refer to money and business-related issues. Social. Social is connected with groups of people and their community. When you're talking about social, we are talking about where we live, how everything is in our surrounding. Those are the words that we are going to use in this topic. Okay. Let's start with substance abuse. What is substance abuse? Substance abuse is when a person uses substances such as alcohol, tobacco, or drugs in a way that they are harmful to themselves and the people around them. We are saying that substance abuse is when you, as a human being, use either alcohol, or you use tobacco, or you use drugs more than that you're supposed to, until it becomes a danger to yourself or people around you. So before that as well, let's look at what type of substances that we abuse, or we have seen, or we see, or will end up seeing people abusing. We'll have, on page 19, we have a few pictures of some of the substances that can be abused. We have tobacco. Those are cigarettes that we see people smoking. We have alcohol, which can be different types of alcohol. We have beer, we have anything that people drink that is having alcohol. But there are also some other drugs that some of us may be not familiar with. We have cocaine, we have mad drugs, and cannabis as well. But mad drugs is some of the pills that people might use, but they are very dangerous, which can affect their health. Other community or other commonly abused solvents, these are the liquids that people may use that can also affect their health. It's glue, benzene, dry cleaning fluid, nail polish remover, and petrol. Those are some of the liquids that people use as solvents when they are using substances. Our lesson continues. We are now on page 20. So we are going to have more details on what happens to our bodies or to our communities or to our economic lives once we start or we are abusing substances. It says, identify the health, social, and economic effects of alcohol, tobacco, and drugs. We are going to look at them one by one in table form. We are starting with health effects. So we're going to look at How does alcohol, how does tobacco, and how does drugs affect your health? We are starting with alcohol. When you abuse alcohol, it normally changes the way you think. So you realize that when sometimes people get drunk, they start to say things that are not in order. Okay? So even they can greet you 10 times just on the spot because they are not by themselves. Alcohol can also affect your health in a sense that your behavior, you become irresponsible when it comes to behavior. You do things that you're not supposed to do. We have heard of people that were being raped, or somebody fell pregnant because she was drunk, or somebody have raped someone because he was drunk. He couldn't think in a correct way. Okay? It also slows one reactions and leads to poor judgment. So you realize that when some people get drunk, even the way they walk, so the legs look heavy, or sometimes instead of stepping right or front, they start stepping sideways or backward. So it means that now the body is not acting as it should because of alcohol. It affects one's organs and blood circulations. It means that the way that the blood is moving in your body, it goes abnormal. That's why even your temperature normally change when you get drunk. Okay? Another problem is that you can become addicted. And once you come to the point of being addiction, it can be compared to a disease. So you will be hardly live without it, and it can affect your life every day because you have to drink alcohol every day. That's the side of alcohol in terms of our health. Let's move to tobacco. Tobacco, it says it's very bad for someone's health because it causes the damage to the entire body, especially to the lungs. So the lungs, of somebody who smokes, they change. Every time when you smoke, there's tobacco, it means there's any smoke that is going into your body, and it goes straight to your lungs, and they start burning up your lungs. Okay, and on the other point as well, you can become addicted. As long as you get to the point of addiction, that tobacco will keep on burning up your lungs until it burns up totally to the point where you can have diseases like lung cancer. Drugs. Drugs can cause serious health problems, in some cases even leading to death. Okay? If you overdose pills, if you take pills more than you're supposed to, it means you have heard of people that have died of overdose. It means that you took tablets or you took kind of injections or medications more than you're supposed to. You can die at the spot. It can also cause weakness in the immune system. So meaning that if you are using drugs, your immune system, which was supposed to take care of your body to control everything that happens in your body, it becomes weak. So at that point, you might even suffer from different diseases because your body cannot defend itself anymore. It leads to heart abnormal condition, like abnormal heart rate and heart attack. People that use drugs can easily suffer from heart attacks, meaning that your heart is not functioning properly anymore because the pace of how your heart works is being affected by drugs. And then lastly, on drugs, they can destroy your liver. Your liver in your body, once it gets destroyed, it means whatever goes in your body which contains alcohol, it will not get filtered anymore. And then at the end of the day, your liver gets destroyed and you can have cancer or other diseases and you can even die. That's the health part on how alcohol, tobacco, and drugs can affect us as human beings. We are moving to social effects. Social effects is about how us and surrounding we interact and how do we live with our neighbors and the whole community. Let's start with alcohol. We said the social effects of alcohol is that somebody changes the behavior. You realize that we have a very good boy at a young age, and once you start consuming alcohol, they can even start swearing at people. They are using bad languages because alcohol have changed their behavior. They become aggressive. So these people cannot even play with them. Sometimes just a simple, peaceful touch on their body, they can even punch you or insult you or take stones to hit you. So it's because that's what alcohol does to us. It means that we are not going to have peace with our friends anymore. Another point is that one can still to pay for more alcohol. Once you get addicted, you can't live without alcohol anymore. And if you don't have money, you have to go and steal. And we know that stealing is not one of the things that we should do because of how it will affect us. Okay? Underage drinking can cause problems at school. Once you're a child, like from when he starts drinking, so when he goes to school, he might end up fighting with his friends, classmates, swearing at teachers, and everybody there. So once you start drinking while you are even young, it's even worse compared to somebody who is older. If you are working and you like drinking alcohol, you'll end up losing your job and can even lead to breakdown of the family. So when you're drunk every day, your boss or your manager or whoever is supervising, you might think that no, it's enough with you, because even if you come to work, it doesn't serve any purpose, because you can't do anything looking at the health factors because your body is weak, or you just don't have energy, or you can't just control your behavior. So you end up losing your job. And then if you lose your job, there's nobody to support the family anymore. You realize that people are moving out of their house to any place that can help their lives. How does tobacco affect our social living or our social health? It says that tension in the family, you are always lying trying to hide the smell. So when you smoke, you come home, you try to eat sweets. Okay, this is what normally happens. When your father smokes, or your mother smokes, or your brother or sister smokes, when they're coming home, they try to eat sweets to make sure that that smell of tobacco disappears. And then, because of that, when they ask if you smoke or not, you will end up arguing, or you will end up having misunderstandings in the family. So, it also have bad breath, dull skin, and smelly hair. So meaning that when you smoke, that smell of cigarette, it remains on everything of yours, your hair, your hands, your clothes. So you smell everywhere. And then sometimes people might not like that smell of cigarettes or tobacco. It can also lead to punishment at school. If you go to school and you smoke, you might hear that your teachers are saying, because of this or because you smoke, we are going to punish you in this way. Let's look at drugs. People that abuse drugs, how are they behaving in our societies? They still to pay for drugs. So somebody has to steal money so that they can buy those drugs. They also, if you are underage, you can also lose control. You can even kill somebody. You can also do unnecessary things because you are not on your own. And then you might affect people that are living around you, your sisters or your neighbors and everybody in your location or your village. Okay, your schoolwork go down. It means that you don't perform anymore because your brain cannot function properly. So your schoolwork start to go down. If you are getting A's, you'll end up getting E's, F, G, and U's and those symbols. Family conflict or breakup. So most of the families in our country have broken up because of drugs. The father comes home, the mother comes home after consuming drugs, and there's a misunderstanding, there are fights, and then at the end of the day, they end up breaking their relationship. They all go separate ways. We are continuing on page 21 on the economic effects, which says, how does drugs, tobacco, and alcohol affect us in terms of economics or money? Let's start with alcohol. Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus, one can lose his or her job. When you're abusing alcohol, your judgment, your thinking, your behavior, everything change. And then you'll end up being fired or losing your job. And then once you lose your job, you're not going to have incomes anymore. You are not going to have a salary anymore. So because of that, you are going to be broke because there's nothing supporting your life as far as money is concerned. It also goes to the health system. So when people are consuming or abusing alcohol, a lot of diseases are going to happen. They are going through or are going to suffer from different diseases. And now they are going to go to hospitals now and then just to buy medicine or medications to support their health. So it means that it's going to be very, very costly for you to go to the hospital every day and pay for the medications. Money is spent in alcohol instead of food. So imagine that your father works or your mother works, but every month instead of coming home with food, doing shopping, they're just going to buy alcohol. So you have nothing to eat at home. That's one of the reasons why it's not good to use alcohol as far as money is concerned. Let's look at tobacco. How does tobacco affect our financial life? Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus one can lose one's job as well. The same as alcohol, if you are smoking, you might get addicted. Sometimes while you're supposed to be at work, you have to sneak in and go smoke. And then by then, your supervisor or your boss or whoever is in charge will start complaining that you are missing from work and they'll end up firing you. Goes to the health system as well. So we have learned or we have heard that some of the diseases, like for example, cancer, the medications are very expensive. So if you are smoking, you might suffer from lung cancer, and then at the end of the day, you need a lot of money to have right medications. Sometimes you even need surgery, and sometimes become very, very costly. You might go to other countries or other continents for surgery or for operations, which is very, very expensive. Money is spent on alcohol. Money is spent in tobacco instead of food. So instead of our parents or our brothers and sisters buying food for us to eat, they're just going to buy tobacco. So imagine that every time they say that people that smoke don't keep money, because now and then they need to buy tobacco for them to smoke. So it means they're going to be broke every day. Lastly, let's look at drugs. How do drugs affect our financial situation? Addiction influences the ability to work well. Thus one can lose the job as well. All of them, either it's alcohol or it's tobacco or it's drugs. Once you become addicted, you lose your job. And once you lose your job, you're not going to have a salary at the end of the month, or whenever you get paid, you're not going to have money anymore. It also goes to the health system. It means that a lot of money will be spent on our health. Okay? Imagine that you are working, but every day you have to go to the hospital. You take a taxi, or maybe you have a car, you fuel up your car every day. When you go to the hospital, you have to pay. It means that instead of now using that money for something better, you're just spending it in your health. Money is spent in drugs instead of food. So people are just going to buy drugs. They're not going to pay for your school fees. They're not going to pay for your transport to go to school. They're not going to buy you anything. Whatever you need at school as a child, your parents, your brothers, or whoever is taking care of you will not be able to support, because they only have money to buy the drugs. I hope you have been listening, and then you understand what we have discussed. The last part, we are looking at assessments. Okay? Let's see if we have understood what we have discussed here. Question 1. We want you to describe what it means by substance abuse. If somebody say substance abuse, what do they really mean? That's question 1. Question 2. We are going to identify and name one effect that the abuse of substances has on a person. We are saying health, social relationships, education, they are all going to be affected if we abuse substances. What do we want you to do? On health, you mention one, either whatever you think is right for you to mention there, and explain how does it affect in terms of health. You do the same thing on A, you do the same thing on B, you do the same thing on C. You just identify them and explain how do they affect the life of people and those ones that are living with. Thank you. Let's not forget to sanitize our hands. We keep our mask on and our distance as well. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
What is social distancing? Hi everyone, I am Zoshi, and I'm back. It literally just means that you need to stay home all the time and keep away from crowded places. And remember to keep your distance from your friends too. Everybody stay safe. Yay! Till next time. Bye!
Humanitarian crises are all too familiar to television viewers. Civil wars that cause huge movements of refugees, worldwide pandemics, and natural disasters like earthquakes and tsunamis. This is the way most of us are used to seeing these heart-wrenching events, on a screen in front of us, watching passively. But what if you could step into the frame and actually feel what it's like for the individuals on the ground?
People come out of it feeling enlightened and often moved and often ready to take action. A lot of people automatically say, well, what can I do? How can I get involved?
Garbo Aurora is leading a team at the United Nations who are using cutting-edge technology to raise awareness, empathy, and funds both to respond to humanitarian crises and to bolster support for a new set of sustainable development goals around the globe.
Virtual reality is the ability to really take part in a story that usually you're only a passive spectator on. And you actually get the sensation of feeling like you're being there.
By using multiple cameras that can record in all directions and software that can stitch the images together, virtual reality creates an experience that enables the viewer to see a movie from every angle, above, below, and behind.
It's exciting for the UN, to be involved in some of those early experiments of how we're trying to tell stories, make these films, and work with some of the most cutting-edge people in the industry on it.
So the UN reached out to us and connected, and we realized that there was a great opportunity here to tell some very important stories and to tell them in a way that we thought would be totally new and highly impactful. The way that I define virtual reality at this point in time is basically the hacking of your senses to convince you that you're somewhere other than where you are. Often, I think of it as a sense of vulnerability. So one of the things we've realized in some of our stories is you have a heightened sense of empathy and a heightened sense of connection as a result of that vulnerability.
That heightened sense of connection and empathy was exactly what Garbo Aurora was looking to create at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Not only to inspire leaders to take action, but also to influence donors to increase funding for disaster response efforts.
I'd started experimenting with using innovative ways of advocacy, and I started talking to a lot of different partners and people. What could we do that would be incredible? And someone said, I just came from a meeting at Samsung, and, with some of these other virtual reality headsets, wouldn't it be amazing if you got all of those elite people who could actually go to a refugee camp, or they could go to an Ebola clinic? I just really felt it would get our issues highlighted.
In addition to the screenings at Davos, virtual reality portals have been set up to view the films at high-level political forums around the world. The virtual reality film on display was Clouds Over Sidra.
Clouds Over Sidra is a short film in virtual reality about a girl named Sidra who lives in Zatari camp, which is a Syrian refugee camp in Jordan. And it is a story about a young girl who is giving you a tour of the camp, of what it's like, what her life is like. When the film debuted in Davos, it was a sensation to everyone we showed it to. They come out of it very deeply moved. I'd say half the people who watch Clouds Over Sidra cry. And then we cut a version for UNICEF where it's face-to-face fundraisers. The way they do that is usually someone with a clipboard on the street in Europe or in different countries. So they thought, well, what if we got people to experience virtual reality on the street?
Quite sad. They don't have a good environment to stay. We try our best to help them.
Early reporting from UNICEF has shown that when using virtual reality, they've doubled the effectiveness of their fundraising efforts. This report was produced by Ben Lybrand for the United Nations.
Scientists are racing to find a COVID-19 vaccine. Creating a vaccine usually takes years, sometimes even decades. More than 150 vaccine candidates are being developed worldwide. Some of the trials furthest ahead have produced encouraging results. Several possible vaccines appear to have produced an immune response with antibodies, T cells, and no serious side effects. Antibodies are protective proteins that fight infections in the body. Some T cells kill infected cells. Others help B cells to make the right antibodies to fight a virus. It's uncertain how long immunity to COVID-19 would last. 6 other human coronaviruses have been known about for years. Natural immunity for the most common 4 is quite short-lived and generally lasts a few years. A COVID-19 vaccine could require booster jabs after years or even months. Scientists are using a variety of methods to make a vaccine. Several human trials are creating vaccines using the genetic code of the virus. Other human trials, and some with animals, are trying more traditional methods, such as using a weakened or inactive virus. This variety might lead to more than one type of vaccine. Having several could actually be very useful, as each one may be more effective among different people. Despite the promising progress, it's not guaranteed an effective and reliable vaccine will be found. If there isn't one, the virus might eventually infect everyone. Some scientists are hoping to have a vaccine ready for limited use before the end of this year, but most are predicting mid-2021. Once regulators have approved a vaccine, billions of doses will have to be made. Then there's the tricky task of distributing and administering it on a global scale. Collaboration will be needed so the poorest don't miss out. Health workers could be at the front of the queue to get it. But who should be next in line?